I think that we talked a lot about the advertising side of the audit, but I think something that is equally important is the user experience side of the audit. So making sure that aligning with the brand messaging and the USPs that you're talking about, we're also cleaning up the website and making sure the website itself is aligned with that messaging. It matches the advertising, that the path we want somebody to take when they hit the website makes sense, and is clear to that user. Something that we do a lot of with the dealers that we work with is mystery shop the store and go through the online process ourselves, which really gives us an indication of where a shopper might be dropping off in the experience, where that online activity starts to get difficult for a user, and it allows us to really take the opportunity to clean it up. And I'm going to play bad cop a little bit here to the dealers that we work with. All our dealers are great, but other dealers that we don't work with, there are often times where when we go through that process, we'll also take a look at things like response time from the dealership and their communication. And we can provide recommendations and reports back on how long it took them to respond, how they responded, how they were able to answer our questions. And we'll also cross shop our dealer competitors, and make sure that we're aligned and competitive with their user experience as well.
Yeah,
Robin,
I think, go ahead.
no, I think it's such an important comment that you just made. And I think it goes back to the foundational model of the 4 Ps. So people, product, process, and promotion. And I think something that's easily overlooked before you even start any advertising efforts is looking in-house of the staff employed, what they're trained on to be able to handle in a volume of leads, and also um, making sure that anything coming onto your website, that it presents this great user experience. So, you're spending all this money running great paid search ads, Facebook ads, getting them to the website. But if once they get there, if they don't know what call to action to click, if they see a stock photo and not a custom photo, if the navigation is confusing, if it's not mobile friendly, where we know a lot of people are using to access your site, it's going to create a lot of user frustration and they end up leaving. So I think the best thing to do first is look internally at both your people and also your process, in the sense of how, or your product, as far as what does your website look like to drive that traffic before you even think about, advertising, to make sure everything's in place.
Yeah, that's a great point, Amanda. And Engage, I know we've talked a lot about automotive already, but I think looking at product pricing, it's 2 more Ps, I guess. But pricing and other on-page elements, Gage, we mind just kind of talking through how that should look, and kind of, I think it's an area of a website that most businesses probably kind of just overlook and don't think about that merchandising.
Yeah. Automotive can be tricky because there's a million ways you could do it, right? We all know that there's, you could advertise a price, you could advertise a payment, you could advertise an APR percentage you want to finance at and get a better deal. So it can be a little tough to pick the right one, and it depends on the market. But I think what's important is to take a look at it and ensure that, one, it's competitive, right? So look at some of your competitors and see what their pricing looks like. There are oftentimes even where just different tools, right, look different. So let's say one dealership uses some third-party tool to do their pricing. It doesn't even match the offers they're promoting on their website. So like you go to the homepage and it says, lease an F-150 for $400 a month. Click on it and it goes to this page with their actual cars and it says, here's the car, it's $600 a month. Well, that's pretty confusing for the customer, right? So right out the gate, you're creating inconsistencies in your pricing, inconsistencies in what you're promoting. And that doesn't lead to a good experience where somebody's feeling confident that they're going to give you their information and get the deal, right? They think they're going to give their information, and now they're going to have to go through the process of fighting tooth and nail for every penny, right? But I think even outside of automotive, when you look at other things too, it's, the biggest thing is just making it clear, making sure you have strong call to actions on your products, right? So if somebody's on your screen, they're looking at your pictures, looking at your pricing, what are you asking them to do next, right? Like buy it right now, get more information, submit like an automotive, they have a lot of tools on there to start the buying process. Now you can start buying it online by filling out a finance app, or seeing what you're pre-qualified or pre-approved for as far as financing goes. So I think it's important to look at that top to bottom and figure out, if you are getting people to your site and they're not converting, why, right? Is it because you're not competitive? Is it because the process is difficult? So I think those are important things to look at, after you get the person to the site.
Yeah, it's just such amazing information, I think. And I guess the consistent kind of theme throughout all of those points that everyone made is really thinking about the customer. And from an audit standpoint, at the end of the day, we get really specific in specific tactics and the nitty gritty of how our messaging is. And when we really think about it, it's how are we talking to the customer? How are we thinking about how they want to interact with our ads and our business, whether it's on our website or in person. And I think everyone would probably say that they should always remember that. But it's really easy to forget that people are buying your products. And it's not necessarily just, leads or website users. I know we talk about users a lot, but at the end of the day, they are customers and they are people. So considering all of those touch points that may influence somebody to buy or influence somebody to go somewhere else. And a regular audit of a website and that entire behavior and kind of the movement down the funnel is key for any success. Any other points I think on like that user experience on a website or branding? I know we promised we would get into the tactical, nerdy, nitty gritty. So I think we have to go there next, but want to make sure, we talk through the branding and bigger picture items because they're really important.
Last thing just to add real quick on that I thought of about the leads. So because of the world we're in now, where there's a million different ways for people to contact you, right? So, you could get a phone call, you could get a form submission on your website, you can get a message on Instagram. If you're using a third-party tool, like for dealers, using Auto Traders of the world, they're getting leads through completely separate things that aren't even their company. And I think it's important to not treat all those leads the same way. And understand what a customer's intent is, right? So if somebody sends you a Facebook message, odds are they're expecting a response quickly on some sort of quick question, right? Is this still available? Like, what's the process? Can I see this car? Versus if somebody submits a form on your site and they say, I want to be called in the evening, right? They're specifying, talk to me in 5 hours from now when I get off work. And I've seen situations where we do an audit and we find that they're responding the same way, right? The person asked for a phone call the next morning and they're calling them right away and interrupting their work. Or the person sent a message on Facebook, they didn't get back to them for 2 days. Guess what? People aren't very happy if you don't respond to a Facebook message for 2 days, right? They're gone, their attention span's somewhere else in a different universe by then. So I think it's important to understand like what each customer's intent is and not treat all leads equally.
Yeah, that's awesome. Everybody shops differently. There's no one shopping behavior that everyone kind of goes through now where you see a TV ad and then go buy. But I think we promised the nerdy stuff, so we have to go there now. I think from a lightning round of sorts, going tactic by tactic, anybody feel free to jump in, shout out. But when you're going through a paid search audit, kind of what are the high level areas you're looking at first? What do you find the most important? And what are you really keying in on when you do a deep dive audit in paid search?
I think the first and foremost thing I look at for paid search is how much budget is going towards sticking with dealers. First and foremost, how much budget are they spending on their own name? So if I'm Bob Smith Ford, how much investment from paid search am I spending on my own name, not just intentionally, but also unintentionally, going through search queries and seeing where that might be coming through unintentionally and looking at how to really cut back and clean that up, because we know that organically we're going to capture the majority of the traffic for our own brand name for free. So taking that as an opportunity to make more efficient use of our paid search spend.
In paid search as well, just utilization of customer match lists. So using your own first party data. I think everyone who talks to me, if any of my clients are on this call, I'm probably a broken record of, you know, Google's becoming more and more of this black box. How do we beat them? So pretty much our main control, especially in performance max campaigns, is going to be audiences. So do you have an up-to-date customer audience list in there? Do you have a solution for first-party data? Because cookies are rapidly deprecating. So do you have a solution there? Because it's going to be incredibly important across all of our channels. And then in paid search, I mean, we're going to have to hold on as we're being drugged down the road by Google, but just trying to keep up with, you know, what our best practices. And it's really looking like audiences is going to be a main focal point for us, especially in 2024.
Yeah, I think bouncing off of what Sarah said, in general, there's a lot of changes happening in the Google ad space, and really making sure that we're learning how to utilize these new campaign types, such as Performance Max, efficiently to drive great results is really important. It's not something we can fight against or avoid. Google is heavily pushing more in this area, and we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to learn these new tactics and make sure that we're able to utilize them and drive really great results.
I would say
awesome.
Just of Robin's, you know, point of looking at how much is being allocated to brand spend too. I would also take a look at how much budget is being allocated to each of your campaigns based on user intent, and tying that to the business's overall goals. So someone searching for, keeping automotive as the example, someone searching for 2024 Toyota RAV4 has a different intent than someone looking for a Toyota dealer near me. That the first person is more educational in nature. They may not be ready to buy, whereas someone looking for a dealership near them is more ready to visit the dealership and be closer to a sale. So for that reason, how is your budget allocated with those campaigns? Are we allocating the proper amount? And that's all of those conversations we would have with our clients of properly funding those campaigns based on the business's overall goals.
I think that
awesome.
also
Yeah.
leads like right into SEO. Sorry if that was what you were going to say, Drew.
You're good.
But, you know, engagement on the site is so important. We already talked about it. You know, you can spend all this money in paid search, but if you're landing to a really poor user experience, it's not going to be great. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Drew.